Hi everybody, Joe Conkley in the shop. Today we are going to look at a 1996 Martin J40M. I'm doing a refret and some other work on it. Let's get started so I can hit this thing with a hammer. I am using Jescar wire here. It has a particular tang size. You need to match the tang, which is this little part here. That's the part of the T wire that creates the vertical part of the T. It goes into the slot. Jescar provides this wire to us in a wide variety of tang sizes so I can match the tang to the slot. And what I'm trying to do is put a tang size that goes in there that will spread that slot just the amount that I want, because that compresses the fingerboard and allows it to, it strengthens the fingerboard and allows it to stay straight. This particular refret is a little bit unusual in that I am not trying to over compress the fingerboard. Many times when I'm doing a refret on a Martin guitar, it's an older guitar that does not have a truss rod, and so two main reasons I'm doing the refret. One, to replace the worn wire, but B, and more importantly, to do what I call a compression refret, which is I'm matching that tang size to the slot and trying to strengthen and straighten that neck with the refret. This guitar had a reasonably straight neck, and it does have a truss rod. The wire was worn down to nothing, had been leveled a number of times, and there was no fret wire left to level through the grooves that the strings had created in the fret. So when I'm doing a compression refret to strengthen the neck, when I remove the frets, I am trying to sand the fretboard to get just the amount of back bow that I want. So when I put those frets in and reinforce that back bow with the proper fret tang size, the string tension pulls the neck up to straight with a teeny little bit of relief. In this case, and in that case, many times I'm taking a lot of material off the nut end of the fretboard because the neck is bowed like so, and I'm taking the material off here. In this case, I was trying to actually take a lot of material off the neck body joint area because the neck angle was quite steep already. Like I said, neck nice and straight, so I don't have to worry about actually straightening the neck out. So when I'm taking a lot of material off the nut end, usually I do not have to replace the nut because even though I'm putting larger fret wire in, I'm taking enough material off the fingerboard end that those two, the larger fret wire, but all the material I take off allows me to use the same nut. In this case, because I'm putting new, fresh fret material in, the old nut would be too low. So now I'm also going to replace it with a nice new bone nut, which I've already shaped and fit to a certain extent here. I've got it pretty much ready to go as far as starting the slots there. But in the meantime, I need to put some more frets in. So first thing I do is remove a length of fret wire from the larger roll. Notice the difference in radius. I take this smaller piece of fret wire and run it through our fret roller to create a radius that is just a little bit more bend in it than there is in the fretboard, so that when I set the fret on there and start tapping it in, the ends of that fret are the first thing that go in the slot. So I have to clip a little bit of the end off here to make a nice square cut there. And then I set it up here on the fretboard and use my flush cut end nippers to cut it just a little bit longer than the width of the board. Make a nice flush cut. So now I have a nice piece of fret wire. The next thing I need to do for this particular job, because there is binding along the fingerboard edge, what I'm going to do is to undercut the tang. I'm going to remove a bit of the tang so that that end of the fret wire can overhang the binding and get a nice clean look there. I have this nifty tool here, also from the Jescar company. It is a fret tang remover. allows me I have adjusted this part right here to give me the length that I want. I'm going to slip it in there part way, nip a little off, and then I like to do it in 2 passes there. But what that does is remove the fret tang just a little bit on the ends there. I'm going to do the other side here. 2 passes. That just ensures that the bead of the fret does not get bent. If I try to take too big of a bite off right off the bat, I will possibly bend the wire. Now I will insert the wire into the slot right in the middle there. The ends are touching in. Now I'm going to tap that wire in. Have to get it lined up a little better there. 'Now I need to inspect that to make sure that wire is seated as flush as possible. I have to be careful when I'm tapping on the ends there that are overhanging the binding. They don't hit it too hard, because you can drive the wire into the binding and the binding into the neck and actually fracture the finish down below where the binding and the neck meet. So there we go. Last little thing is a little dot of thin super glue to ensure that that part of the fret that is overhanging the wire stays secure, and I'm going to wipe up that excess super glue there before it dries. Alright, that's it. I need to put frets in the whole way up. You'll notice my rig here for holding the guitar. I have the neck sitting in a nice solid neck rest. This is a bag of lead shot, which we've put in this leather purse. Very nice 70s style brown leather purse. I have it just holds the shot, and the shot moves with the neck, forms to the neck, and creates a very solid pounding surface. I have that sitting on this half-inch piece of steel here. It's a nice solid base. So when I'm pounding on that, it's a dead blow situation. There's no vibrations going elsewhere. Those vibrations that I'm creating here at the neck, though, are traveling down the neck and into the body of the guitar, which is a big sound producing thing. So what I have here is called a fretbuck. This is something that I made with my father-in-law, Pat Kane, in his shop, and it's a copy of a Taylor fretbuck, which is an instrument, again, to create that dead blow situation, to take the body of the guitar and solidify it, so that, especially when I'm inserting frets on the fretboard extension, this part above the body, so this mechanism here that I'm tightening tightens up underneath that fretboard extension, grabs that, and solidifies this whole situation. So I can beat on this part with a hammer, because otherwise it's too flexible for me to actually insert the fret. So that would be a good thing to do, is to show you, just insert a fret over the fretboard extension so we can see how that works. So first off, I will cut it to size. Trying to cut it just a little longer than necessary. There'd be a slight overhang, which I will trim off later. Now I'll undercut the tang there. This process used to be very tedious. You would have to hold it in various ways and use a small file and slowly grind that off by hand. That tool has made this job a very pleasant thing to do rather than a tedious thing there. So now I will get that wire positioned. I don't know if you can tell, but that sound that I'm getting right there is the same super solid dead blow sound. It's not flexing and echoing through the whole body of the guitar. It is a super solid. Sound. When I have that this really solid situation, it feels like the fret is just getting sucked right into that slot as opposed to moving all around, which is key for me to get that really good seating, solid seating that I know will stay and create the compression that I'm looking for. Dot of super glue. All right. So yeah, I have some carpet piled up underneath here too, so that the body of the guitar sits pretty solidly too, because it is a tapered body. It's thinner at the neck joint than it is at the butt end, so I've just got various pieces of carpet there to fit up in there. Let's pound another fret or two. This is the exciting part. Watch me do this again and again and again. 20 frets. 10 in there, so only 10 more to go. Once I get them all in there, I can take and nip that little overhanging fret end, and I'll take a file and file that flush and then put a slight angle on that fret. And then what I like to do, one of the reasons that I was working on the nut already, the new nut, is at that point I like to take a file and just top the frets off, kiss each fret just a little bit to know that they are all level, and then string the guitar up so that I can really see where the relief in that neck is, and then check every fret individually with a fret level checker. It's a nice, very machined straight edge that allows me to look at 3 frets at a time, and I set it on top of there, and what I'm looking for is what I got here. No, let's see if I can get it right. I can create it right here. No rock like that. That rocking sound tells me that that fret, of the 3 frets that I'm looking at, the one in the middle is higher than the other 2, and it has to be taken care of. So again, those are the next few steps, but I'm going to tap another one in. Make sure my buck is still solid there. One part of the process that I didn't talk a lot about is truing the fretboard, which is key. If I'm going to get those fret surfaces nice and level, and each fret the same height as, or not the same height, but level with all the other ones, I have to start by prepping the fretboard to be the same. So under string tension over time, by the time you wear out a set of frets, that neck and fretboard have been under string tension for a long time, and they're getting pushed and pulled in all kinds of different ways. Worn with your fingers. If you have fairly long, hard nails, you can dig into the fingerboard and create grooves. And so you pull the old frets and then prepare that fretboard by mostly with sanding. But there are times when you have to do a little heat pressing to manipulate it and move it around and finally true it up with sanding. So that is as important as the new frets itself, if not more. That's why a partial refret can be, it's not something I like to do a lot of, because you miss that opportunity to true the fretboard underneath. There are lots of times when a partial refret is the proper thing to do. If you're only playing in one area, like I do a lot of partial refrets on banjos, because there are certain licks in the Scruggs style banjo playing that have you playing the same lick in every single song, and it wears one area of the fret under one string really fast, and you have to replace that, and sooner than you might otherwise. But that's why it's nice to, when you get somewhere in your frets, to do a fret level. Just take care of the top surface of the frets, level down through the fret, through those grooves, and recrown and polish the frets up until you can't do that anymore. You can only do that so many times, 3, 4, 5 times, depending on how much wear you have in the frets, and you know, how much the guitar is being played. But once you do that a few times, then it's nice to refret the whole board. Take all the frets out and true it up and clean it up, and then put the nice new frets in. That is pretty much that. And so I'd like to thank you all for tuning in, and encourage you to come see us every couple of weeks here in the shop, and like us and share us on Facebook. And thanks again. We'll see you soon.